Luca, thank you for joining us for this series. Can you state for the camera your name and your company, please?
Absolutely. My name is Luca Giani, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Ilios Therapeutics.
Thank you, Luca. We are doing this series mostly to share with other founders and with prospective founders the experience of our teams and entrepreneurs here. So for that, it's very helpful to hear some of the personal stories. Before we delve into the company, we asked you to bring an orange object, because you know that LabCentral loves orange. You see this everywhere. What did you bring for us? Tell us the story of this helmet.
Yeah, absolutely. I had to bring my helmet, and that's because this is, well, first of all, for my safety.
Yeah.
But second, it's because I drive around a 1964 orange Vespa.
Bring the Vespa.
We tried. Unfortunately, it's filled with gas, and they didn't want it to be a liability.
We'll take a shot outside and take the Vespa in.
The Vespa means a lot to me. It means freedom. I got it when I was 14 in Italy, and it was the first time that I could really run around together and accelerate transportation.
Wonderful. And you're betraying your provenance as an Italian boy. Can you tell us your story of what brings Gianni to Boston Kendall Square?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a long journey. It started when I was first given a scholarship to come to the United States for high school. I came here originally to study physics, and from there I went on to university and then to grad school. My background is mostly in investing and venture creation, and with Ilios I'm on my third stint and hopefully the most successful one.
The first one you're doing at LabCentral, but hopefully not the last. From university you went into investing, and so you reversed the journey that many other people do. Tell us about that. How was that, and what did you learn while doing that?
Yeah, well, the learnings are different at different stages. And I think that as an analyst doing investments, you're required to quickly gather a lot of data, understand the fields very well, understand comparables. And you see a lot of innovation and a lot of advancements and, frankly, failures. Mm-hmm. And so you get to learn a lot. I didn't want to be on the spectator seat. I wanted to drive it and try to have a meaningful contribution, make mistakes myself, feel the suffering, and I've never had a better job than being an entrepreneur in biotech.
And while you were on the investor side, you also transitioned through different sectors in investment, right? You covered more advanced companies and public healthcare, and then you also were for a while working in venture. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So in terms of my first job was at Credit Suisse, and there I was working mostly on mergers and acquisitions and debt financing. Mm-hmm. The companies there are very large. They're dealing with very different problems, but it's all about creating synergies and creating value. And in terms of the early stage investments, that's a completely different job and skill set. You need to see different drivers of value, and often it comes from the team, the technology, and the plan. And being an entrepreneur, you try to bring these learnings and this vision into one, but the problems become very different.
Let's talk about your company, Ilios. If you were to walk into a room full of high net worth investors, and now as a CEO, you must always be fundraising, I'm sure. Can you summarize in sort of what is your 30-second pitch for Ilios?
Sounds great.
Tell it to the camera, the high net worth camera over there.
Yeah, and please invite me into that room, Johannes.
I will try my best.
I'm ready. But Ilios is the old name of Troy, and we are building through rational design, nature-inspired, multifunctional small molecules for neurodegenerative diseases such as ALS and Alzheimer's. The way that we're doing that is by bringing together these components that have shown promise and efficacy, but they have limitations, mostly on the pharmacology side. So as Johannes mentioned, we use this Trojan horse-like chemistry platform that is optimized for blood-brain permeability and penetration to then have multifunctionality on the three key drivers of neurodegenerative diseases, mainly protein misfolding, neuroinflammation, and oxidative stress with a single molecule, to go beyond the paradigm of one drug, one target that has had very limited success to date.
How, as a high net worth investor, how are you going to make me money?
We're going to make you money by creating effective therapies in a huge area of unmet need.
What would be your first indications to go after?
Our first indication is amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS. It's an area of huge unmet need. It's characterized by the progressive loss of function of neurons and motor neurons in the brain and spine of individuals. We are providing an alternative by looking at the disease more holistically, if you will, and we're simultaneously modulating TDP-43, which is the protein that misfolds in 97% of ALS patients, whilst also modulating the oxidative stress and the neuroinflammation component of this disease.
Amylox failure recently, does that dampen or increase your chances of fundraising right now?
You know, every failure is horrific for patients, and we were sorry to see Amylox not succeed. But Amylox failure or not, we're taking a completely novel approach, an approach that has been discussed by the industry substantially. The field is calling for therapeutics that can modulate one way or another the processes that drive the disease. Some are trying to do that with combination therapies, the classic cocktail drug approach. We're doing it with a single drug that can do that simultaneously. And recently we got our first inflection point, which was demonstrating that our proprietary compounds can modulate the three disease processes simultaneously.
So before we go about that, tell us a little bit about the company and how did, you're not a scientist, but how did you get involved with it? Did you find your scientists? Did they find you?
No, that's a wonderful question.
How big are you now? How many people do you have?
Yeah. So a little bit of Ilios history. I was working on a previous company with Professor Gianfranco Liguri, who's one of the world experts of glutathione, a major antioxidant produced by our body. And we were working for a different company through ways to make glutathione more bioavailable. Alongside him, Professor Stefani, who's a polyphenols expert, was looking at different nature-derived agents against protein misfolding. I'm not a scientist, but I had the scientific curiosity to ask the stupid question, professors, what happens when we combine your research streams? And as it often happens in academia, they were best friends, talked every day and never combined their research. So from that question, we created Ilios to combine these elements that together can be made into proprietary compounds. Ilios currently has 7 people working, and we are a group of, I would say, experienced individuals that have done this before. We put together a team that has expertise in medicinal chemistry, neuroscience, neurobiology, and neuropharmacology. And we're working at one of the LabCentral locations and are sprinting towards the lead candidate selection.
All right. Now let's talk a little bit about your technology. Because I read your slide deck, so you have the component that's the targeting or the element that gives you access to through the blood-brain barrier to CNS tissues, and then you have your payload molecule or molecules. Are there multiple payloads, or is there a single payload?
Yeah, the way that I usually describe our technology is that we start from glutathione as a backbone. Glutathione is a antioxidant produced by our body. It's abundant in healthy individuals, but patients, especially ALS and neurodegenerative disease patients, have a fraction of the levels of glutathione as healthy individuals. So from there, we unlocked the full power of glutathione, not only as a therapeutic, but also as a flexible linker. And as compared to other linkers that are synthetic and foreign to our body, glutathione is produced by our body. And so we're the first ones to unlock that power and then isolate pharmacophores from nature-derived agents that have shown promise against protein misfolding. So these pharmacophores, as you mentioned, are then merged with glutathione, and then to drive the molecule through the blood-brain barrier, we take advantage of fatty acids. These are your omega-3s, omega-6s that have therapeutic properties themselves, but when combined with glutathione, there's a co-protective mechanism that unlocks these transmembrane protein through the blood-brain barrier into the brain, like a Trojan horse, like our name, Ilios, the old name of Troy.
Wonderful. We talked a little bit about how you chose to build your company in Boston rather than in Italy, because I learned that two of your founding professors are actually Italian. Tell us that reasoning.
Yes. So, in a nutshell, is a function of talent, opportunities, and networks. And when it came to identifying the best place to incorporate, the choice for us was naturally Cambridge, and it was leveraging the Harvard ecosystem. We started out as a student team at the Harvard Life Lab that provided us resources. We went through all the accelerators that you can think of, starting from the Mass Biodrive, Mass Challenge, Nucleates, and there it's where we met our first mentors. Some of them, like Lisa Paborski, have joined us full-time to be part of the team. And through that, we organically grew the team with people knowing what skills were necessary, what were the values of Ilios, which in a nutshell is empowering people to be their best self and bring together, like do real chemistry, do human chemistry, like bring together different people to together be a better version of themselves. And we're now a 7-people team between full-time and part-time, but we geared more towards the experience. We think that even a few hours of part-time experience can have a lot of impact. And we want it to be lean, we want it to be flexible and versatile to the conditions that we're facing right now in this market, in this economy. And being right here at the epicenter has provided us incredible networks. I love my country, and I hope that Ilios European headquarters will be in Italy very soon. And part of our investors are Italian as well.
That's great. So this is the first biotech company. I understand it's not quite the first company that you're involved with or started, but it's the first biotech pharma company that you're doing. What are some of the learnings that you can share with your former self or with your peers who are starting companies all around us here? What have you learned that you wish you would have known before you set out?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I wish that somebody had told me how hard it was and how incredibly multifaceted drug discovery is. In a way, I'm also glad that they didn't tell me, so that I went in with a lot of energy and trying to solve things. But it is a very tough journey, and it requires different expertise, and it requires a lot of minds coming together. So I wish somebody had told me before to bring experts right in, and it's often easy to ask for advice, but it's very tough to ask the right advice to the right people. And so sometimes spending more time to identify exactly what you need and who can give you that expertise needed can really pay dividends.
You mentioned this, finding the right guidance at the right time, and often that's delayed, right? Often that's too late and we're trying to fix a problem after we could have maybe achieved this earlier on. As you go through these different steps from idea to now proving this idea in escalating, in models of escalating value. Can you describe to us what are some of the inflection points that you're planning for or that you've recently passed that give you confidence that you're on the right path?
Yeah. So Ilios is novel science. We're not spinning out from an academic lab. We are creating novel patents internally. And in terms of our development, we set out, and our pre-seed was on this idea of being able to combine different components to create proprietary multifunctional compounds. And our first inflection point was to be able to demonstrate that through rational design, we can bring together these components and we can make them be stable and be reproducible. And the second inflection point was to create the right assays to screen our compounds and to be able to identify actives. And for us, actives mean that have activity around multiple domains of biology, in particular protein misfolding, oxidative stress, and neuroinflammation. So we set up these assays that now are fully validated and are high throughput. And we then start to take through our first set of proprietary compounds. Our probably most important inflection point, which was to show that our compounds have this multifunctionality. They can hit and have activity on these three processes. And there is clear SAR, structure-activity relation. And so now we're learning from our chemical structure, and we're incorporating these structural motifs and iterating our compounds towards higher potency and better drug-like properties.
Are you developing the molecules in-house, or are you using outsourced services for that?
We have the entire intellectual property and guidance coming in-house, and then we're using a CRO to develop the molecules and do the actual chemistry and testing.
So if things go according to plan, what are your timelines like for the next 2, 3, 5 years in terms of growth and in terms of milestones towards clinical trials? What do you project?
Absolutely.
And put your most optimistic hat on.
Well, the most optimistic is always too optimistic, so I'll put the baseline hat. But we are currently in the lead candidate selection, and we are shooting for the first half of next year, 2025, to have a lead candidate series selected that then will go through lead optimization. First, we're going to have to test our molecules in pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics experiments in animals, in rodents. And then we're going to optimize on more advanced pharmacokinetics and early toxicology ahead of selecting a development candidate. And that will take about 2 years. So we're in 2027.
All right.
From there, we are going to go through a more standard IND enabling study. And we hope to be first in human by 2028.
Okay.
For our first program, which is ALS.
Okay. How are you doing for fundraising? How is the current climate treating you?
The current climate is not the best.
Yeah.
And between geopolitical problems, between the market and frankly going in an area of an indication which is the central nervous system, is a challenging environment. We are going through a novel approach, which is very much appreciated. We constantly hear from investors that we're building something extremely novel and that we need more data to the table. That data is coming, and I think it's important to have a clear plan and to show that you can execute on that plan. And that's exactly what Ilios is doing. We knew that it wasn't an easy feat, but the patients desperately require novel approaches.
Yeah. Are you talking with pharmaceutical? So you mentioned that you're having discussions with venture investors. What about the pharmaceutical industry? Are you speaking with them already, or do you think it's too early at this point?
Well, Johannes, we're knocking on a lot of doors.
Good.
We're strategic. We know we started with the usual suspects, investors that are interested, have done neuro investments before, and they are doing early stage. We hope that after the lead candidate selection, our leads will have substantial profile, a data package that we can bring to them with something that honestly would be transformational, because nobody has shown the ability to modulate multiple targets in a molecule that is brain penetrant.
Yeah, what are they telling you about that approach? We see lots of approaches now that are gene therapy or targeted mutation-specific therapies. Yours is somewhat of the opposite, right? It's a much more generalized approach to go after common factors of neurodegradation. What is pharma's response to that if they've told you about it?
Yeah, so they like conceptually our approach.
Okay.
I think everybody says that if it could be possible, it would be wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
They admit that it's complex.
Mm-hmm.
It's a chemistry challenge. And I think the early wins that we're having, the early inflection points, are bringing us closer to dissipating those doubts. Because initially, the big question is, can you even combine different components in a molecule that is stable through rational design?
Mm-hmm.
And now we have a chemistry platform that is CNS optimized for rapid synthesis.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next question is, are they going to be active on the 3 processes that you're targeting? And now we're starting to show that, and we're starting to improve.
That's great. Now, we always want to end on a positive note. Think about what would you hope for, or what are you excited about? What are you hopeful about in the next 6 and 12 months for your company or for our industry in general?
I'm hopeful that novel approaches will be considered and will be encouraged. I think that there is a desperate need in the field for bringing forth something that hasn't been tried before.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hopeful that that's coming. I think the field is awakening to that. And there is a push from the government, the market, to go more into neurodegenerative disease treatments. And as we know, Johannes, it's all interconnected and it's all a cascade. So I'm very hopeful that with the market hopefully becoming better, with the government pushing more into this field, and with innovation and even academia talking more about the desperate needs of having novel approaches, all these variables will come together, and we're going to be right there with something that we bet on early on, and we've been developing for the past 2 years.
Well, we certainly wish you all the best for that journey. Tell us how LabCentral can support that. It's important work. And thank you for being part of this series. Be fun to chat with you. Thank you.